This notebook is meant for demonstrating some basics of Python and some basics of running Python from Jupyter Notebooks. So starting with Python. Python is a interpreted high-level programming language. So this means that we can write some Python code and we can execute some Python code and have access to the output right away without needing to compile the code. Languages like C++ are very efficient languages, but it requires you to compile, so it makes more difficult to prototype and script on those languages. So Python is very convenient for that. The Jupyter Notebooks, they are just a very convenient way of running Python code. So I demonstrated how you can run Python code from a command line. I demonstrated how you can run Python code from a Python file. But most of the time, when we are writing Python code, at least in our context here of resource modeling and geostatistics, we are using Python code within Jupyter Notebooks. It's just a very convenient way of doing it. So the Jupyter Notebooks have some building blocks, and these building blocks are cells. So for instance, if I click at this cell, this is a big cell, and then there's another cell in here and another cell in here. So you can select the cells. So there are three main different types of cells in Jupyter Lab. To see all the three options, I can just select a random cell and go into here and see the options. So we have code cells, we have markdown cells, and we have raw cells. So the two cells that we're going to be using the most are code cells and markdown cells. So if I click on this one, you can already see it's a markdown cell, and if I click into this one, you can see that's a code cell. I can change back and forth from the markdown cell and code cell by selecting it from the drop-down menu. So this will convert that cell to markdown, and this will convert it back to code. Another way of converting cells to between back and forth from markdown cells and code cells is by pressing M. M will make it a markdown cell, and Y will make it a code cell. So in this case, we want this cell to be a code cell because we're about to write some Python code. So if I click on this cell, I can just start typing my Python code. Let's do print hello world. And then this is a Python code. What I can do is to run this cell. There are keyboard shortcuts for running cells, but for now I'll just show how to run by clicking on the play button. So if I click on this play button, it will run that cell, and the result or output of the last line of code of that cell is shown on the screen below that cell. I can convert the cell to markdown by pressing M, and if I run that cell now, I don't get any output because that's not interpreted or run as a Python code. So let's go back to Python code by pressing Y.